This is passive hip flexion, where I am controlling the client's leg, moving it upwards towards their chest to engage their hip. We would do this and compare it to the other side as well, and this is called hip flexion. So, the first thing that we are going to do is to make the client lie in a supine position, and they will bring their knee up towards their chest and bend at the hip, and this is called knee flexion. Now, to test adduction, I will passively move the hip, and the client will move their foot inwards to achieve adduction at the hip. To achieve abduction, the client will hook one leg off the bed and the other leg will go out towards me as far as possible. This is called abduction at the hip. Now we need to do internal and external rotation, passively and actively. At the start of the video, it is active, so we will first need to bring them into hip flexion. They will then bring their foot inwards towards themselves, which is external rotation, and then outwards, which is called internal rotation. Now, in the second half of the video, it is a passive movement in which I will be doing the movement for them, internally and externally at the hip. I will now passively bring my client into abduction by holding their leg and moving it outwards to achieve abduction at the hip, whilst the other leg is hooked on the bed. To achieve abduction, it's the opposite. You should have one leg neutral and the other leg you will hold, and you will go as far as you can over the other leg without causing them pain. I will now bring my client into a prone position to bring them passively into hip extension in their hip. You should hold their leg as your client's muscles are passive. For the resisted phase, you should hold at the ankle joint and the other just above the knee, and the client will resist against you, pushing downwards until they have straightened their leg. This movement is called hip extension on the downward phase and hip flexion on the upward phase. This is the function test for the client's hip. The test is a squat. The movements used in the hip during a squat are extension and flexion.